The NBA season starts tonight. It is here, it is upon us, and as you would expect, every single content creator, analyst, journalist, whatever it is, you, fans, friends, whoever it is, we have predictions. Future Jesse here, and I just wanted to say that this video was supposed to go up yesterday before the first NBA games of the season started, but I didn't finish the edit in time, so I'm uploading it today instead of yesterday. So if I say some stuff that may seem out of place, that is why this was supposed to go up on Tuesday, October 24th. It's going up the next day, Wednesday, October 25th. So yeah, that's what's going on. And I hope you guys enjoy the rest of the video. Prediction season is here, of course, with the games starting tonight. I want to get out my predictions. Obviously, I'm going to go through every single position in the Eastern Conference and the Western Conference. I'm going to go through my award predictions. But without further ado, I want to jump right into it, because I'm sure you guys are anxious and excited to hear about my predictions, whether it's for the conference standings, power rankings, player awards, season awards, whatever it is. I'm ready to get into it. I'm sure you guys are ready to hear. So I'm going to start out with the conference I root for and look at the most, Eastern Conference. That's where my Detroit Pistons are from. That's where they play basketball. Bottom of the conference, in the 15th seed, I've got the Charlotte Hornets. I'm trying not to go through and explain a bunch about each one of these teams or my predictions. I'm going to give you a little basis on why I made that choice, and then that's really what you can go off of. But the Charlotte Hornets are in my 15 spot. LaMelo has gone through a lot of injuries, hoping he doesn't go through a lot of injuries this season. I don't see a lot of depth with this Hornets roster. It's really young still, and there's a lot of outside distractions right now for the Hornets, and I'm assuming that's not going to help them at all this season, let alone I'm not a huge fan of Steve Clifford as their head coach. I think there's so much to be done with this roster and this team, and you really only have a couple bright spots in LaMelo and Brandon Miller. Hopefully that's enough to not leave you in the 15th spot, but it's looking like you might get another top 5 pick next season. In the 14th spot, I have the Washington Wizards, and you could argue them above the next team or two teams maybe, or you could even argue them lower and put them in the 15th spot. But my main reasoning here is you only have 2 main guys to go to, unless you count Denny, then you have 3 guys, really. And that's not enough, especially with the fact that Jordan Poole is very inconsistent. We saw him go for 41 points one night, and then he goes 0 for 11 or something from 3 the next night. We've seen Jordan Poole on the Warriors. He's not a very consistent player. He's still very young, has a lot of time to develop that consistency. But I think that's definitely a problem, especially with him stepping into his first real role as the number 1 or 2 player on a team like this. Obviously, you have Kuzma, who's been there. He's done that. He's averaged these 20-point games, 20-plus point games. He has won an NBA championship. He knows what it's like to win. I just don't see him being able to carry a team, especially a team like the Wizards, who are completely rebuilding. They got rid of their best player, their franchise player. I don't see much with the Wizards right now. In the 13th spot, I have the Detroit Pistons. This is my team that I root for. The Detroit Pistons, I see a lot of very good promise with them, obviously, especially as a biased Pistons fan. I want to see them being better than the 13th spot in the East, but I know that it's probably not likely. Obviously, Cade Cunningham is about to hopefully play his first full season that he has played yet. And he ended his season with a shin injury or surgery that he had to get done. We have the second year of Jaden Ivey, first year of Asar Thompson. We have some very promising pieces in Bagley and Stewart and Wiseman. There's just a lot of pieces right now, and we have to see how these pieces fall into place before we can proceed. Chicago Bulls, they haven't done anything to really increase their roster whatsoever. I don't see them doing any better than maybe making the 10th seed, and right now I have them at the 12th seed, so you can argue them above the next team I have here, which is the Toronto Raptors. Losing Fred VanVleet is a big piece for them, something they have not gone through yet. There's a lot of trade talks going on around OG Anunoby, Pascal Siakam. Sure, at some point Gary Trent might be thrown in there as well. There's a lot of trade talks going on right now for the Toronto Raptors. I don't see them making a push for the playoffs. I don't think it would be smart. I personally think it's time to let them all go, except for Scotty, rebuild for the future, hopefully get a good pick this year, and move on from the Pascal and that kind of experiment. You can get some good stuff for OG and Pascal as long as you don't wait too long and sell them while they're hot. Next, I have the Orlando Magic. I'm sure you were looking for them at some point on here. I think the Orlando Magic are going to take a ginormous step this season. My main reason for this prediction for the Magic to take such a big step this season is, A, we saw them play really well last year. They went on a lot of really good spurts. B, I just see Paolo coming out and being that much better of a player. They also have full seasons under the belt for a lot of their younger guys. Once again, Cole Anthony has more PT under his belt. You have Jalen Suggs, Franz Wagner, Mo Wagner. You have a lot of very solid young pieces there. And I think if you ride the back of Paolo Banchero, I think he can take you places. If you have good guard play, you can be taking places with that as well. I like this team. I think they have a chance to do something in this NBA season. I've got the Brooklyn Nets, the other team out there in New York. I've got the Nets here, and obviously we're all looking for a possible MIP season from Mikal Bridges. I think it's a little too expected. He's not my MIP pick, by the way. I think it's too obvious of a pick. But Mikal Bridges is one of my favorite players in the league to watch. Ben Simmons looks like he's been a lot more aggressive in the preseason, which is what everybody wants to see, especially Brooklyn Nets fans and teammates and the coaching staff. Obviously, you want to see Ben Simmons compete at the best level, let alone just compete. Just Ben Simmons go play basketball. They haven't had that in a while, and they finally have Ben Simmons out there to play basketball. I think he will play, and I think he'll have a good season. Cam Johnson also out there. Got some decent pieces. And this team, once again, could be argued high or lower. A lot of these lower, like 5th or 6th seed through like the 12th, 13th seed in the Eastern Conference could be argued. Same with the Western Conference. A lot of these teams could switch. I've got the Nets in this spot right here just because they don't have a D guy. But Mikal Bridges is enough of the guy, surrounded by some decent pieces out there, enough to get you to the playoffs. Right here, this might be my biggest shocker. At the 8th seed, I've got the Indiana Pacers. The Indiana Pacers have the tools. Tyrese Halliburton is an all-star, bona fide all-star for the rest of his career, probably. Obviously, he was an all-star last year. I think he's going to continue to be an all-star for probably the rest of his career. He averages the most assists in the league. He probably will this year. He's a great scorer, really good three-point shooter. Obviously, he's such an amazing facilitator. He has somebody on his team like Buddy Hield, who's like a J.R. Smith who will just let that thing rip. He will shoot all day. You got somebody very consistent like Miles Turner, who's coming off possibly the best season of his career. He's also a very good three-point threat. He's a good stretch 5, stretch 4, whatever you want to play him at. Miles Turner's a very good piece out there. They have young pieces. Benedict Mathurin coming into his 2nd season. I like this team a lot, and I think if you can ride what you have with Tyrese and Miles Turner, you have a lot to look forward to. And plus, the addition of Jarris Walker is going to make this lineup very versatile. I like the Pacers a lot. They're going to be one of the teams I'm looking forward to watching the most this NBA season. In the 7th seed, I have the Atlanta Hawks. They're bouncing here every single year. It's just what they do. They lost John Collins, obviously, in a trade, which they really didn't accumulate anything. And now you're sitting at this team that looked pretty much the same as last year, ending last year. You give Quinn Snyder now a full season to come in here and do his thing. And I think that the Hawks could be better than this. It could also be worse than this. It is the Atlanta Hawks, and I think we've talked about the same Atlanta Hawks team for the past 2 years now, 3 years, that they could do something, they couldn't do something, they could drop, they can move up, whatever it is. I have the Atlanta Hawks here because at the end of the day, it's the Atlanta Hawks. Next, I have the Miami Heat. And I think that the Miami Heat could be better than this. They also could be a lot worse than this. They don't have a lot of pieces, right? Obviously, you're riding the coattail of Jimmy Butler, Bam Adebayo, and Tyler Hero. Personally, that is not enough to get me anywhere. I think Bam, if he has that season, the season we've all wanted from him, the season where he can finally step up, make an all-star team, and really help Jimmy Butler carry this Miami Heat team past the top 6 seeds in the Eastern Conference. If he has that kind of season, I can see the Heat doing pretty well. But in the past, we've seen the Miami Heat really show out in the playoffs. They take some rest throughout the regular season. They play the regular season not as hard. And then when they get to the playoffs, they go hard, obviously making 2 NBA finals in the last 4 years or whatever it is, and making an Eastern Conference finals outside of that. The Heat could do anything. Don't ever count the Miami Heat out, and this is just where I have them for now. Next up, I have the New York Knicks, and this is a team that could be the 3 seed. They could also be the 7th seed. I think that they have a very, very good season. Hopefully, Julius Randle can tone down some of his dumb mistakes that he makes on the court that kind of can be costly to his team. Jalen Brunson comes out and has another great year. They have the pieces. I really like this lineup. It's not like anything really changed from last season other than losing Derrick Rose, which Derrick Rose didn't even play in the first place. I like the Knicks here. I don't know if they're better than any of the teams above them, but I think they are closer to being above the teams above them than being below the teams below them, if that makes sense. So I think they have more promise than they do not promise, I guess. Next, after the Knicks, I have the Cavaliers in the 4 spot. The Cavs could be above the next team that I have. The Cavs could be the 2nd seed. The Cavs and the Knicks, once again, I think are those 2 teams that are pretty close to each other. We saw that in the playoffs. There was a neck and neck team, although the Knicks won the series like 5-1 or something. It's 2 teams that I think can kind of battle out for a little bit. I like the Cavaliers here, and later on you'll hear why I have some of these teams where they're at. I just will not disclose any of that information until later in the video. At the 3 spot, I have the 76ers, and regardless if they have James Harden or not, I think Tyrese Maxey, Joel Embiid, Tobias Harris, and a good bench unit, and the addition of an actually solid coach in Nick Nurse, I think it's enough to get them a 3 seed, especially a top 4 seed no matter what. I think they'll finish top 4. Put them in the 3 seed now. I think the 76ers have something still to work to look forward to. They have the MVP of last season. Tyrese Maxey's going to come in and have a great season. Tobias Harris is still an efficient NBA player. I think they have enough bench depth. I think this team will be pretty solid. I'm not looking for them to be a contender, but I think they'll be the normal 76ers over the last 5 years that we've seen, where they're just constantly in that 3 seed, 4 seed fighting to try and make a conference finals. All right, top 2 seeds. At the 2 seed, I have the Milwaukee Bucks, meaning I have the Boston Celtics at the number 1 seed. Regardless for the Bucks and the Celtics, I think they're both going to finish around the 52-30 mark, maybe better, maybe worse. I think the better team is the Boston Celtics just based on their depth, but I think the best 2 players out of these guys, it's coming from the Bucks team, Damian Lillard and Giannis. If this whole team can stay healthy and they don't lose either one of those players, or some good bench depth like a Brook Lopez, even a Pat Connaughton, because he is starting at that position is so weak for them. I think if they lose something like that, it could be very detrimental to them. And obviously, like I said, losing a Giannis or a Damian Lillard could be even worse for them, or would be even worse for them. The big thing for them is that they're riding the backpack of a Giannis and a Damian Lillard, and if either one of those players goes down, this season will be not rough, but I don't think they're contenders like that anymore, and that's why I have them there. And the Boston Celtics are probably the deepest team in the NBA, or at least for sure the Eastern Conference. Starting lineup is unmatched. The bench depth is great. I think that they have the best team in the Eastern Conference personally. They have this experience. Throwing KP in there, it's nothing crazy. The addition of Drew, it's like having another Marcus Smart there, but just a better scorer. KP is just a good defender. He's an outside threat. He's a unicorn. We know what KP can do. I'm expecting the Celtics team to have a very good season. You should probably see them in the NBA Finals. Heading over to the Western Conference. We're starting out on the bottom. Now, this one was the hardest one for me. And now I have these teams in their spots right now. I'm not settled on this. This could flip anyway, and as the season develops, we'll be able to develop our list and make better lists and kind of decide where we want to put these teams. But for now, this is what I have. This is very rough. A lot of it's just going off feeling. That's really it. So 15th in the West, I have the Houston Rockets here. I don't think the addition of Dillon Brooks and Fred VanVleet, I don't think those are the best additions to really take this team over the hump to making a push for that play-in spot, especially because I look at the teams above them, and every single team in the Western Conference has more than they do. That's really what it comes down to. The team above them is Victor Wembanyama and the Spurs. Victor Wembanyama is enough for me to put you over the Rockets at that point. And when you look at the Spurs, they have some good pieces out there, obviously with Devin Vassell, Keldon Johnson. They have some solid pieces. Jeremy Sohan. I like what the Spurs are building. They have one of the greatest coaches of all time by their side. And that's why I have the Spurs over the Rockets. Nothing more to say about the Rockets. So at 13, I have the Utah Jazz. Last year, I think, was a bit of a fluke. They started out really hot last year. I don't think that happens again. I don't think Lauri Markkanen is good enough to bring them to a play-in or playoff spot. And I see them falling right here. Pretty sure they don't really have much for the guard play. When you look at this Jazz team, nothing really jumps off the paper to me that's completely different from last year, enough to literally push them 2-3 seeds ahead of where I have them ranked. You have Taylor Hendricks and Keontae George coming in, which is a very, very exciting thing for this team. They don't really have an established guard presence. Obviously, Colin Sexton, Jordan Clarkson there, but they don't really have anybody that can lead them forward as a ball handler. Lauri Markkanen's nice, but they don't have the guards that I think you need in order to be very good in the Western Conference. That's why I have this team here. Next up, I have the Portland Trail Blazers. maybe not where they want to be, but they have a lot of promise. And I think if they move pieces throughout the season, they're going to pick up more draft picks or more young players. They obviously have a very good young core building right there. They have their guards of Malcolm Brogdon, Anthony Simons, Scoot Henderson, Shaedon Sharpe. That's a lot of depth right there in that one position, two positions. You bring in DeAndre Ayton, who was struggling in Phoenix and now has a chance to turn his career around in Portland. I like him with this young unit. Jeremy Grant will probably get moved some point in the season, along with Malcolm Brogdon at some point. But either way, that's going to bring back draft capital or just more role players to fill in. I don't think this team's going to be too bad, to be honest. I could see them moving lower, maybe below the Spurs or the Rockets, but I do like them above the Jazz personally. Even as I'm looking at this, I'm making changes in my head of, I don't know if I agree with the Blazers above the Spurs, maybe even the Jazz, but I'm going to keep them there for the integrity of the video. At the 11, it's the Pelicans. I feel like we have been looking for the Pelicans to do something for so long. Hopefully Zion Williamson can stay healthy through the whole season. Same with Brandon Ingram. He missed so much time last year. CJ McCollum is there, obviously. Outside of that, they have not had this progression and launch like we really thought they would, like a Grizzlies launch kind of thing. We haven't seen that from them. I have no reason to believe that's coming. And Zion Williamson gives me no reason to believe that he's going to stay healthy all season until that happens. I can't put them above any team above them. And I'm going to leave the Pelicans here. Next up, I have the Oklahoma City Thunder. This Thunder team, I think, is one of everybody's favorite team to watch. Obviously, Shea is so exciting. Chet is on Rookie of the Year watch right now. You have J-Mo coming back. Lou Dort, put him in the torture chamber. Josh Giddey, you can dig into their bench. This is a fun young team, and I'm excited to watch them improve. And obviously, they made a run for the play-in last year. I see them doing it again and possibly even winning a play-in game, moving forward in the play-in and maybe even making the playoffs. This Thunder team is going to surprise a lot of people. And I think people are expecting this Thunder team to be pretty decent based off of what we saw from them last year. Next up, I have the Timberwolves here. I don't see anything to make them move forward or jump off the paper even more, other than a big step from Anthony Edwards. And we know Anthony Edwards is coming into the season as a possible top 10 player. He's a fringe top 10 player, top 12 player in the NBA. I'm expecting a huge season from Anthony Edwards, but can we see this Gobert and this Karl-Anthony Towns thing mesh finally? And if that happens, you might see this Wolves team move up into a 6th seed or something like that. Leaving the Wolves here for now. I like this team. And like I said, this Western Conference is so stacked. Putting these players and trying to predict this is pretty much impossible because these players, things can get hurt or people can get hurt. Teams can do good, go on good runs, bad runs. Anything could happen. And we have no idea how this is going to turn out, but that's where I have the Wolves. Next up, I have the Grizzlies. The biggest reason I have the Grizzlies here, you're going to miss Steven Adams, and that's a big piece to miss out on. John Morant's out for the first, 25 games of the season, which means Marcus Smart is then filling in for you at point guard. That's somebody that has not played reps with these players yet. Derrick Rose will be your backup probably. And then you're also losing Dillon Brooks. So the first 25 games of your season, you won't have John Morant, Dillon Brooks, or Steven Adams. Those are 3 players that you've needed the past couple of seasons in order to make the pushes and the growth that we have seen from this team. Obviously, you will get John Morant back at some point. Still, probably you will not see Steven Adams. I think he's out all year. And Dillon Brooks is obviously in Houston. So you're missing some core pieces from this team. And I'm counting the first couple games of the season as not very good games for this Grizzlies team, missing John Morant. And that's why I have them this low, is because they're going to be trying to catch up from this 25-game drought they're going to have to go through in the beginning of the season because Ja's suspension. Next up, I have the Mavericks, and outside of Luka Doncic and Kyrie Irving, this team doesn't really have a ton. They can go out there and make trades, I'm sure. You can maybe try and pick up the Jeremy Grant piece from the Blazers, head up to Detroit and see what you can offer and try and pick up for Bojan Bogdanovic or some of those other pieces we have, the Joe Harris, Alec Burks kind of players. Either way, I don't see the Mavs doing anything better, really. Or I mean, they could go further, they could go worse, who really knows? But I think riding the tail of those 2 star players isn't enough. Got the Mavs here. Next up, I've got the Kings. The Kings are good. Did they really do anything to step up their roster? Not really. Brought back the same type of team. I don't mind the moves that they have made. They're bringing in a former European MVP or EuroLeague MVP, whatever he is. I know that he's nice. Let me find him real quick. Sasha Vezenkov. Okay, had to make sure I could double check myself. He was the Greek Basket League MVP, most improved player, and best young player. Obviously some promise coming from there then for the Sacramento Kings. But like I said, their roster is still in the same spot it was in last year, which I don't think is detrimental to them, but I don't think it really elevates them any more than what they were last year, the 6th seed, or were they higher, the 3 seed or something like that? I don't see them being that high. I think they were the 3 seed, the Warriors were the 6th seed, right? Something like that. I don't see them being that high, which is why I have them in the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 spot right here. Clippers up next, and I think we all know why. It's the health. Not much to say there. It's the health. Paul George, Kawhi Leonard, stay healthy, you move up. Don't stay healthy, you fall down. Play half the season each, you probably end up right here. That's really all I got to say about the Clippers. Prove me wrong. I want to see them take a top 3 seed, but I have nothing to go off of for that. Next up, I have the Los Angeles Lakers, back-to-back LA teams. Lakers made a lot of good signings this season. If AD stays healthy and LeBron stays healthy, this team is very good. If those 2 players go down, even one of those players goes down, this team is not as good. That's really all it comes down to. I mean, it comes down to that for a lot of these teams, most of these teams, every single conference. But like I said, AD is one of those guys that you know will not play very often. Hopefully he does this season. That's why I'm not giving him the benefit of the doubt like I would be giving the benefit of the doubt to a Dame or a Giannis, who doesn't struggle with a lot of injuries. But over here, we have AD, who struggles a lot with injuries, same with the Kawhi and PG stuff. And LeBron James is old. He's turning 39 this year. He's going to go through injuries. He's going to miss time. If he plays 70 games this season, I'll be very impressed if LeBron James plays 70 games this season. Next up, we're in the top 3 now. At number 3, I got the Golden State Warriors. The Warriors are going to be nice this year. I think the addition of Chris Paul will be solid for them. I love this Warriors roster, to be honest. They filled in their missing spots with players that they needed. Dario Saric is a great stretch big. He can stretch to the 3. He can hit a mid-range shot. He's very solid. They've brought in a shooter, Brandon Podziemski. However you say his name, I've watched highlights. I know what he's about. This dude's a shooter. We know what Golden State can do if they've got a couple of shooters. If you can hit a 3, you're pretty valued in this Golden State system. You're going to get buckets. You're going to get looks. Obviously, the addition of Trace Jackson Davis out of Indiana is a very good pickup. Trace looks solid with them. He looks like he fits in. And if it's somebody who can contribute and step out and hit a shot, make some athletic plays, focus on the defense and some good rebounding offensively and defensively, I think he's a player that can fit in with them. And I like these small additions. Even losing Dante DiVincenzo doesn't scare me. Jonathan Kuminga is expected to make his jump this season. If not, I don't see him sticking around too much longer. And with that being said, Klay Thompson has a full season under his belt. Time to move forward, and let's see this Warriors team start rocking. At the number 2 spot, I have the Phoenix Suns. Obviously, once again, injuries are going to be the one thing that is going to hinder this team, but they are very, very deep. Lakers, very deep. Celtics, very deep. Here's another very deep team for you. The Suns got a lot of players. Obviously, they've got the 3-headed monster out there, and they've got a bunch of great pieces coming off the bench for them. We know this roster was completely flipped around. You have KD, Book, and Bradley Beal, but the additions of Bol, Grayson Allen is a good pickup. You obviously just got back Yusuf Nurkic, who is going to give you what DeAndre Ayton gave you. Maybe better, maybe worse, but he'll at least fill in that hole, and you won't be losing a lot from that. They picked up Nasir Little in that trade. I think that they just have a lot of good pieces. Yuta Watanabe, one of the better shooters in the league last season, he is there as well. The Suns team's going to be nice. As long as these guys stay healthy, I can see them moving forward pretty well, finishing in the 2nd seed for me. And then number 1, obviously, we have the reigning finals MVP, reigning champions, the Denver Nuggets. Not much to say here. The biggest loss, Bruce Brown Jr. going to the Pacers, who I didn't even mention was on that team. They picked up Bruce Brown, which is another reason why I have them at the 7th seed or whatever I have them at. Denver Nuggets, they're going to be good once again. Not worried for them to slip whatsoever. Jamal Murray's going to hopefully have an all-star type season. Finally get that first all-star game. Jokic is going to be Jokic. We know what Jokic does. And that's my Western Conference. As for predictions for the finals and stuff like that, I haven't thought too much about it. I'm going to edge it out. I'm going to give it to probably the Celtics. I mean, I could just see the Celtics Nuggets, the 1 versus the 1 for me. Celtics Nuggets would be a very fun NBA Finals for me. I want to see Jason Tatum take over the NBA. I think it's time for him. I could see the Bucks and the Suns again. Any of those top 2 teams really from both conferences is where I would see the NBA Finals going. I don't see the Lakers or Warriors sneaking in there. And I definitely don't see the 76ers or anybody else in the Eastern Conference making the NBA Finals outside of the outside of the Boston Celtics and the Milwaukee Bucks. Anyways, let's move into the award predictions. Here we are. So we're going to save MVP for last. We'll start with the clutch player of the year. I have Anthony Edwards as my clutch player of the year. I don't have a ton to go off of for that. If anything, I would pick De'Aaron Fox once again, but I don't have anything to go off of for clutch player of the year other than this one season we just watched. So for that reason, I'm going to go Ant just because I think Ant's going to have a lot of clutch plays. He's going to be sweet this season. Next up, I have 6th man of the year. I have Emmanuel Quickley. I don't know why I say Isaiah Quickley every time. Emmanuel Quickley is my 6th man of the year. He was in the running last year. I think this year is the year for him. Not much to go off of there. Obviously, these are complete out of the blue predictions. Whereas like some of these teams, I kind of know what to expect. These players, you have no idea sometimes. Most improved player, a lot of people can see that going to Cade Cunningham or Mikal Bridges. I have it going to Tyrese Maxey. Stepping up without James Harden in the lineup, I think it's going to be huge for him. I see him carrying his points to a 23 plus points per game. I see the team being pretty solid and Maxey getting that award. Coach of the year, I have Joe Mazzulla for the best team in the NBA, which I think will be the Boston Celtics. I have him winning that award literally for that reason. He's just coaching the best team in the NBA. Rookie of the year, it's obvious. I have Victor Wembanyama, and in second place, I'd probably put Chet Holmgren. But Victor Wembanyama is the very obvious pick here, and I'm not going to doubt it whatsoever. I'm going to give Vic the Rookie of the Year. Defensive Player of the Year, last year was Jaren. I can see Jaren doing it again, but I have Evan Mobley with the Defensive Player of the Year this year. He was very good last year. He was in the running, finishing like 2nd or 3rd in the votes last year, and I think this year is the year for him. And if he wins this award, you can see the Cavs moving into to a top 3 position probably in the standings. And lastly, the MVP, I'm giving it to Jason Tatum this year. Like I said, best team in the NBA, I'm giving it to the best player and the best team in the NBA. And I think Tatum carries his team to an NBA Finals. I like Tatum's game. I want to see more from him, and this is, I think, the season we see him come in there very efficiently, making his teammates better and really focusing on trying to win. And when that happens, you tend to give those MVPs just because you're on the best player and the best team. That'll tend to happen a lot of the times. Here's Jason Tatum's turn. I think we have a lot of voter physique as well when it comes to giving your MVPs to Giannis and Jokic. And I think last year was almost like a pity MVP to Embiid. So with that being said, giving it to Tatum. Those are all my predictions. I think I covered everything, at least all of this kind of stuff. The video is a bit longer. I'm sorry for rambling on so much. And if you made it throughout this video, I appreciate all of you. Please go follow my Instagram. The link is in the description. Once I hit 1,000 followers on Instagram, I will be giving away a free jersey or 2 or 3 to a random follower, sorry. So go follow the Instagram. I appreciate all of you. Let's hit 100K soon. I love you all. Happy NBA season. Let's enjoy the games tonight. And I'm thinking about live streaming the games. If you made it this far, let me know in the comments. I'm thinking about live streaming during maybe the first game. Please comment if you want me to live stream. If you made it this far, I really appreciate everybody. And I hope you guys enjoy the games tonight and this NBA season. I'll see you guys later.